Now, the BBC Poetry Slam Championships are held in this very tent every year here at Edinburgh. And this August, the standard has been incredibly high. A slam is a stanza-based joust, a rhyming arm wrestle. The winner has to write and perform work that captivates and entertains audiences who, let's face it, have seen it all. So, I'm pleased to announce we've got Ben Norris, the 2017 BBC Poetry Slam champion, with us today on The Verb. Ben. So, congratulations, Ben. How does it feel to be crowned the Edinburgh Poetry King?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, it's nice.
It must be a good feeling. We often talk about this on The Verb, but increasingly there is a kind of state of flux and a porous border between poetry on the page and poetry in performance. And I wonder how you feel that world is at the moment.
Yeah, we used to be in quite discrete camps, like, if you were a slam poet, that was a bit of a pejorative term to some more literary poets. And now I think, hopefully, we've got performance poets writing really well and page poets reading really well. And eventually we might get to a point where we can all just be poets.
So then for people who are interested in poetry and might nervously want to stand up and perform, but they might be frightened by the competitive nature of the slam, what advice would you have for them?
Doesn't matter. Stop caring.
Okay.
I used to really want to win slams. I used to go to them and think tactically and think, someone does this kind of poem, I'm going to do this kind of poem. Like, I'm going to play this Pokemon card. And I would always lose. Nervously wandering around backstage and not listening to others' work and not really listening and not enjoying it and just inhabiting the space I was in. And then when I just started thinking of them like gigs, a chance to see my friends and to hear their work, I started doing a lot better and thought, well, maybe I'll do one poem tonight, or maybe if I get all the way, I'll do 3, but it was just a gig, and then I started winning them. So yeah, stop caring, treat it like an open mic, but just with a few more people there, and they're really good fun and they're really good platforms. Yeah.
Let's hear one of your poems that shows that actually it's not just the poem that shouts the loudest that gets the furthest in slams.
This is a poem about my mum's 6-year affair. Whee! Yep, standing ovations, more nods of approval.
Is she with us tonight?
No. Jarring change of tone, but slams are great for that as well. Yeah, it's not as much of a downer as you might fear, though. I wanted to write something that definitely doesn't condone that, but also doesn't necessarily condemn it. I mean, she could have done things differently, but she decided she wanted to keep our family together and keep my sister and I under the same roof. Anyway, it wasn't just that it was any man other than your father. It's that it was Brian, her new partner, and they're very much in love. And also Dad has met someone new. And I think that, this poem definitely wouldn't exist if he hadn't met Sue and if he was still in the place he was in when Mum left him. I wouldn't have been able to write this, but as it is now, we've reached a new place as a family. And so I suppose this is a poem that tries to quietly celebrate that. It's one of those ones, as you're all learning now, that has a massive introduction that far outshadows the length of the poem itself. But that's all built into the time that you get on stage. It's called It's Difficult for Children to Pinpoint the Exact Moment They Realise That Nothing Lasts Forever, but rather it slides into view like the silver wink of the sea as the family Astra rounds the bend of a Lincolnshire hill. And it's set in a well-known holiday resort on the northeast Midlands coast of England during a weekend away that I went on with my youth football team, with my dad and my sister. My mum stayed at home, and it was during this weekend I would learn years later that her affair began. So now you've got all that context. I hope you're ready. Of course, I wasn't to know, as Jason, Lethan and I pretended at playing snooker on a full-sized table. As Dad shuffled Claire and me round the go-kart track, if only to get our money's worth. As grey day turned to grey night, and the adults all drank, and nobody thought to lament the fact that the mums and dads of Netherfield Colts FC under-15s couldn't afford to go abroad. As our static caravan, terrestrial telly, chicken nugget weekend trundled on like a 70s fairground ride that no one found exciting even then. As Butlins spluttered into Monday, of course, I wasn't to know that you were setting yourself on fire, letting yourself love him for the first time. You probably had brunch, probably held hands, linked, kissed with February lips like a torn calendar. I wasn't to know that one day this would find itself in a happy poem.
Thank you very much to Ben Norris and to my other guests tonight, Rebecca Biscuit, Louise Mothersole, Colin Tabine, Joseph Morpurgo and Aditi Mittal. See you next week for more verb-based adventures in the playing fields of language. Thank you.
The Verb was presented by Ian McMillan and produced in Salford by Jessica Treem.